Olá, gente. Espero que você tenha uma ótima noite. This is your man, Larry, the American Brazilian, saying Feliz Sexta-feira. Happy Friday, everyone. I was on the phone with a good buddy of mine. He's a YouTube friend and he's a friend, Lawren D Adams. His channel is The Thinking Class. If you haven't heard of him, go check him out, Lawren D Adams. I'll put a link to his page in the description box. He and I, we talk, pretty much we communicate every day via text, via inbox, or actually having a phone conversation. Today we were having a conversation and we were talking about friend zones. And we came to an understanding, and that was this. We're familiar and we're accustomed as guys to either having been put in the friend zone by a woman or knowing guys who have been put in the friend zone, knowing other guys who've been put in the friend zone by a woman. But what we don't talk about often is that we have a friend zone as well, meaning that as a guy, we put women in the friend zone. Now, I know for many of you might say, duh, yeah. But the reason why I'm bringing that out, because we had this conversation and that's not something that we speak on often or we hear that's talked about often. We know that as a guy, when a woman puts us in the friend zone, we basically are after intimacy, right? So there's a chance, there's a possibility that we want relationship, but we want sex. However, we believe that that can only be achieved through our acquiescence. What do I mean by that? Well, we want to be Johnny on the spot. We want to listen to them cry and bellyache about past relationship or what's going on in their life currently. Or we want to share our resources. You know, when they come up short with a couple of dollars, you know, if they need this or they need that, we'll go ahead and we'll, again, acquiesce. We'll go ahead and we'll give them whatever we feel like they need. But it's all an angle. And the angle is that one day, with all of the effort that I'm putting forth, it's to either get sex or to ultimately be with this person as their boyfriend. Well, when a guy puts a woman in the friend zone, a woman kind of does the same thing, but their angle is strictly relationship. Like, they want to be number one. They want to be the main chick. They want to be the wife. They want to be the person that you post pictures of on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever social media that you might be on. They want to be that woman, right? So what they'll do is they will make themselves available for sex for the most part, because you don't really find a whole lot of guys that are calling women who they put in the friend zone, belly aching to them about a girlfriend that did them wrong. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, but the rank and file guy is not doing that. It's Friday, you might be having something, you're chilling, you're not going out, and so you're thinking with the Jeopardy music, ding, 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 who can I call? And then when you realize, ding, 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 you can call that person, right? And when you call them, it's like somebody waved the magic wand. Every time you call them, they are Sally on the spot. And when you call them, hey, you know, what are you doing? Hey, well, why don't you come through or whatever? And they do it. They drop everything that they're doing, kind of likened unto a guy who's put in the friend zone. It's just that it sounds the same, but in my mind, I'm thinking that everybody, that they have different angles. They use different bait. A guy will give his time, his energy, his attention. And I think Alan Roger Curry, shout out to Alan Roger Curry and RIP Alan Roger Curry. He would always say that. A guy would do that to a woman to ultimately get sex and possibly get in a relationship. But a woman, a guy is not necessarily looking for your time, your energy, your attention, unless it's wrapped up in sex. So you give us that, and you know, you occasionally cook for us and stuff like that, but the intimacy is priority number one, right? So when we have that, then that could, or a lot of women who are put in the friend zone believe that that sole act could usher their way into actually being in a relationship. Now, what does that have to do with travel? I'm glad you asked. Primeira vez, my first time going to Brazil, 2007, 17, 2017. I remember coming back to America and putting people in the friend zone. Now, unbeknownst to me, that's what I was doing. Why? Because after you've, dare I say, tasted of the sweetness that is travel, you don't necessarily approach Western, you don't really approach the Western woman the way that you once did. Not that they aren't, some of them, beautiful, not that they aren't attractive, not that they aren't desirable. A lot of them are all of that. But most men who travel understand that they do so because they have to, or we have to deal with that mentality, and that's not something that we desire. So we travel, go back and forth, or we find somebody who is of a different culture, and we marry them, right? And once we do that, or in the possibility of doing that, if it's a situation where we have to go back and forth, to bide our time here, when that urge arises, you deal with somebody, but you don't see them like you once did. In other words, you don't necessarily see a 10 here as a 10 here, because you understand a 6 or 7 there will come over here and be a 12 or a 14. True. Don't hate the, no deal jogador, deal joke. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's true. So when you come over here, or when I got back, I dealt with a few people, but it was almost like, it was kind of a passing phase. It was something to pass the time. Now, I'm not necessarily proud of it, but I didn't realize until I had this conversation with my brother that that's kind of what I was doing. I had a few people in the friend zone, none of which achieved the status that they ultimately coveted. But when I met my wife, who is a Brazilian woman, she achieved the status that she ultimately, well, I wouldn't say she ultimately coveted, but she achieved that status. I guess it's just what it is. But as in many of my videos, I want to just ask you guys a question. A, do men put women in the friend zone? And B, if it does exist, do you believe that in their minds, in their hearts, in their desires, they allow themselves to be, they allow the man to have access to them, on an intimate level, in hopes to possibly be that number one woman? Is it me? Am I seeing things wrong, or is it actually true? I saw a video today, and this woman basically was saying how if you have a good man, you need to hold on to him lock, stock, and barrel. But just because you have a good man, because there are a shortage, her words, not mine, of good men, then you should allow yourself to share him and not be upset. So in other words, he can kind of almost have this polyamorous thing going on simply because there's a lack and a shortage of good men, but there's an overabundance of women. She didn't say good women or bad women. She just said women. She was very general in her description. And because there's this overabundance of women and there's just shortage of men, then there should be no issue with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 women sharing one man. I don't know. Sounds weird to me. But in any event, I want to know what you guys think. As always, espero que você tenha uma ótima noite. Hope you guys are having a good day. Até a breve. É verdade. Talk to you guys later. Peace.